Welcome to episode 5 of my narrative inquiry. What does it mean to be Acadian? In this episode, we are meeting with Bernard Vigneau from Saint Pierre, France, which remained part of the French Empire after the Treaty of Paris in 1783 and is the only remaining French colony in North America today.
In today's interview, we're going to be discussing with a special guest today from outside of Canada. So would you like to introduce yourself for the podcast today?
Yeah, certainly. Firstly, I wish to give a location to the auditors where is Saint Pierre in Miquelon. Saint Pierre in Miquelon is located 16 miles south of Newfoundland South Coast, and that's the only French community in North America. Saint Pierre and Miquelon, it's 3 major islands. The island of Saint Pierre itself is the capital with around 5,000 people. This population, in majority, is coming from Louisbourg. They are not really Acadian. The Acadian community is living 52 kilometers north of Saint Pierre on the island of Miquelon. And there's of there 600 people, all Acadian. They were, concerning my own family, we were arriving in Canada in 1655. My ancestor Maurice was moving from Sainte-Famille, Quebec, where he was a soldier, to Fort Royal, and he was living there until the first deportation, 1713, by the Treaty of Utrecht Treaty, when the French was losing the Acadie. My family had decided to follow Jacob Gautier to Beaubassin, and especially they were living from this, I would say, 1714 to 1755 at Beaver, New Brunswick. So Vigneau family is a New Brunswick Acadian family. From Beaver, with Beaver, so on the just before the road you take to PI. We have a great honor. The Vigneau family is getting the honor to give the first Prime Minister Acadian for New Brunswick. He was not elected, he was named, but his name was Peter John Vigneau. And he's from Miquelon. We were speaking a lot with the historian in the Moncton University, and the importance of the Miquelon's descendant people living in Canada is very important, and probably over 1 million people. There's, especially in New Brunswick, 2 villages, which are Miquelonais, Belledune and Cocomin. Both villages were found by Miquelonais. Belledune from the people of Miquelon who moved from Miquelon to Magdalen Island to Belledune. And the village of Cocaine was found, and they were the first Acadian to get authorities and the first land papers to stay there. It was the Arsenault, the Hébert, the Bourg. Those 2 villages are coming from Miquelon. All, when the people was arriving in Miquelon, they were not waiting there. The French authorities was not wishing to keep them there. They were arriving first week of October 1763. And in October 1765, the French government tried to push away the Acadians. They were arriving on board my ancestor boat, the Saint Jacques, and the owner was Jacques Vigneau. And he was getting with him 116 Acadian refugees, all from Beaubassin. They spent 8 years in the English colonies. They sent them on board the Jolly Philip, an American boat, to Savannah, Georgia. But they don't stay in Georgia. They moved from Georgia by canoe to Cape Cod, where they were arrested in 1756. They spent 8 years in deportation. In spring 1763, France and England signed a treaty called Paris Treaty. And the French received Saint Pierre and Miquelon Islands in this treaty. But there was just a small word, a few words. The French is authorized to bring in Saint Pierre and Miquelon only 50 French people, except Acadian. It's very important, except Acadian. France was does itself. The French deport us two times, like 1765, 1767. We were coming back in 1768, but the English people deported again in 1755 and 1793. We were not coming back to our island before 1816. And Stephen White was writing something on the Acadian National Historic Society book. He described exactly who was the most deported Acadian in the world. That's people of Miquelon. My own ancestors were deported 6 times.
Six
The
times.
major 6 times.
I heard of up to 5 times. That's incredible.
Don't forget, 1713 was our first deportation because we were moving from Port-Royal to Beaubassin. And you know something? Beaubassin was not destroyed by the English people, but destroyed by the French army. Did you know this?
So it was destroyed by the French because they didn't want the English to get it. Is that my understanding? No?
The French have decided, I think they don't understand the Utrecht Treaty. French people were sticking when they still keeping lands in Acadie. And there's a river, which is the border between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, Messaguash River. French people consider that north of Messaguash River was French. So they tried to push the Beaubassin population. Beaubassin is in Nova Scotia, south of Messaguash River, to burn the village, to push the population to the north. And those people were going to PI, like the Gauthier, which is a big Acadian family. So they moved to Fort Beauséjour and until Le Coude Moncton, and then like the Vigneau, Beaverton. So there was thousands and thousands of Acadians who were pushed away by the French army to north of New Brunswick and Gaspesia and PI Island. And it was the second deportation. But nobody speak about this deportation. But it was a deportation. When I burn your home and push you away, it's a deportation.
Yeah.
Now, it's, I told you before, at the end of 1763, we considered that it was the end of the Grand Dérangement deportation. That's a date that the historian kept like the return date to the old Acadian land. Not for us. Not for us. At this time, in 1763, and the information, you can check the information with Ronnie Gilles Leblanc, which is the doctor, is a doctor in Histoire of Park Canada. Ronnie is a close friend, he's also my teacher. And Ronnie said, at the end of the deportation, 1763, there was on the whole land of Acadie, it's still on the whole land of Acadie, between 1,200 and 1,500 survival Acadians. But there was, in the same time, 600 refugees in Miquelon. A third of the Acadian population was refugees in Miquelon, and the French authority was not okay with the fact to keep them on those islands. That's the reason they pushed them away twice. And if you had all of this, you have in Saint Pierre and Miquelon the most deported Acadian people. Now, there's another fact. My own family, the Vigneau, is the only Acadian family for this time who stay French from the first one to my generation. Will never be anything else than French. So that's the precision. Now, go ahead with your question about my Acadian life.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for that introduction. So my first question is what I call a bit of a loaded question. It's kind of opening the can of worms, if you kind of get what I'm saying. So the first question is, what does it mean to be Acadian?
What does it mean to be Acadian?
Yeah.
First thing, to have coming from a family who give a lot to Canada. We are Acadian founders somewhere. We are the Miquelon, Saint Pierre, the Miquelon, because there's not too much Acadian in Saint Pierre. Miquelon founders, 1763. We are also, don't forget, we are, well, to make more simple, there's two different type of Acadian. The Acadian farmers and the Acadian seamen. It's two different communities. They have common way to live, but a sailor is not a farmer. Nobody can give a direction to a sailor. There's a old maxim who said, captain is the master on his own boat after God. If you try to say to an Acadian sailor, you must go to the north, be sure, then you will go to south. It's somebody, yeah, but it's important. You know, all the vision, the world vision regarding Acadie, it's, oh, Acadians are farmers, uh, kneel down on the land and pray God. Not the sailors. The sailors were going where they wished to go. The sailor was knowing all the St. Lawrence Gulf. And the people of Bevert and couple other Acadian harbor on Central Gulf were doing trading with states. They were not allowed to fish, but they were traders. So they collect all around Central Gulf the fish, the peltries, and everything they can sell. It was possible for them to sell on the American market, especially Boston. My ancestor, Jacques Vigneau, was not using his name Jacques Vigneau instead. He was using the name of Jacob Maurice, who means, Jacques A. Maurice. He was speaking English, he was not right, and he was not drunk. He was getting 5 boats. 5 sons, 5 boats. Those boats were collecting the goods and the Mi'kmaq population artifact articles or merchandise like the fur and the fish. They bring it to Bevert. From Bevert, they bring it to Beaubassin by the road which is now Road 16. And from Beaubassin, they were selling to Boston. And they came back with tools, tissue, I don't remember in English, everything, needles and everything you need for the life. But they sold it all around Central Gulf. At the same time, it was the building of Louisbourg. So they bring some materials from wood and everything from Bevert to Louisbourg. One were the Vigneau brothers were organized a real trading. So they bring the boat, they bring the goods to Bevert, and from Bevert, others boat of his own brother Joseph, who was living in Saint Pierre's now, which was the Port Toulouse, close to fortress of Louisbourg. And they were, and import, export. That's what they do. At the end, in 1763, the French called all the Acadian people living in Massachusetts to come at the French consulate if they were wishing to join France. Jacques Vigneau and his group, because I think we must speak about clan after, because it was a real clan, because Jacques Vigneau bring with him he was a widow, remarried to Marguerite Bourg, who was Guillaume Cyr first spouse, and Jacques Vigneau was married to Marguerite Arsenault from Beaubassin. He brings all the members of the both families on his boat. He buy a boat, a big boat, and he was declared on the French consulate in Boston. Then he was getting a boat, and he will join France by himself with 116 Acadians. Stephen White we got the list of the passengers. And this list was approved by Stephen. We make some research from the French consulate and the people arriving in Miquelon, because when they were arriving in Miquelon, there's an important document. These documents, the children born during the deportation were not Baptist. They just received water from the grandfather or because there was no priest. And Acadians were so religious that the first thing to do when they're arriving in Miquelon, they were wishing then the children received the real baptism. And it was done by Father Paul de Zardibier. We have this document, and this document is very important because it gives you the place where the children were born and the date and the name of the parents during the deportation. And it's something very, very important for us. We know at this date, this child is born in Roxbury. His father was, I don't know, Paul Vigneau and his mother, Anne Corney, but we have all this entertainment. When he was leaving Boston, he said, I'm going to France. The French authorities, was not make the relation with Saint Pierre and Miquelon and France. But Saint Pierre and Miquelon was French, because they were coming back under the responsibility of France from February 1763. And when he was arriving in Miquelon Bay, nobody were awaiting them, due to the fact then in the 1763 treaty, Paris Treaty, French people was authorized to come back on the island of Saint Pierre and Miquelon for 50 people. And when then Jack awake in the morning, there was 116 Acadian refugees in Miquelon Harbor. And he was not getting the right to keep them there. So it's not very simple like this story. In 1793, the island, the English people were deported again, the population, except then some people of Miquelon. Since from 1791 to 1973, there was a couple of family who moved from Miquelon to Magdalene Island. I would say about 10 families. The first one, Etienne Vigneau. And when Miquelon was destroyed, a part of this population was joining the families moved to Magdalene Island. But some family, for some family, the travel was during 16 years. And there's a story we say Father Jean-Baptiste Alain was moving from Miquelon to Magdalene Island with 250 people of Miquelon, which is a nice history, but it's only an history. When we take the documents, that's not true. There are some people, they were traveling with their own boat since 1791 to 1793. But some of them stop at Arichat. It's okay we have 250 Acadians from Miquelon who live Miquelon between 1791 and 1793. But all those Miquelonese were not going together to Magdalene Island. Only a few members were going there. There was an important moving from Miquelon to Saint-Grégoire-du-Nicolet in Quebec, to Rustico in PI, Arichat, Nova Scotia on Cape Breton, and some were joining the others, the first Miquelonese families who moved to Magdalene Island. And it's easy to say, well, there's 250 Miquelonese moving to Magdalene Island, which is not true. It's a part of true, but not the real true. From Magdalene Island, The islands was the property of Admiral Coffin. In 1806, Admiral Coffin decided to rent the land to Acadians, to rent. The Acadians, some accept, some does not accept. And they moved to Havre Saint Pierre, Pointe aux Esquimaux, with Captain Christopher Vigneau. By this fact, when you have a watch on the map, all the Quebec North Coast is coming from Miquelon through Magdalen Island. There's another band, but I was 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, 5 years ago, I was traveling to Quebec to give a conference to a descendant of Jean-Baptiste Vigneau, brother of Jacques Vigneau, Miquelon founders. I spent 3 days there, and there were 2,000 people to my conference, all Vigneau. So, do you know, that's a part of my answer. How I feel Acadian. With this, how can you feel Acadian?
Yeah. So that's a really good answer. My next question for you is all of this, your feelings on what it means to be Acadian, is this different than what you had thought in your childhood?
No, no, not really, because my first souvenir of Acadie, my family for centuries were uh, both carpenter. And I remember when I was 7, 8 years old, my grandfather it was his job, uh, repairing boat. Each fall, there was two uh, small boats coming from Arichat with vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and different vegetables, cattle, and they were coming to my grandfather shop get reparation. And around September the 10th, I remember my grandfather said, "Oh, Joe will coming soon." I said, "Grandpa, who's Joe?" "Joe is my cousin," he said. "Joe is your cousin? What's his name?" "It's Joe Vigneau." "How is your cousin?" And he said, "I don't know." You know, it's funny, but yes, it was a family. And they were keeping my grandfather died, and my own father died. They will not know that they were Acadian because we support so many deportations that it was like a secret. Nobody was speaking about this, you know. And I remember what my grandfather says sometimes. Don't forget something, boys. Someday they will coming back to push us away. My grandfather died in 1967, and he died with this idea. For him, it was, all his family support 6 or 7 deportation. And this was in the common memory. But like a secret, nobody was afraid to speak about this. We never know. And you know something? In 1992, the bigger reason to live in Saint Pierre and Miquelon was fishing. And Canada decided to cut the authorization of fishing. There's no more fishing in Saint Pierre and Miquelon. We are sailors, we are fishermen. When I'm traveling, I was traveling a lot in Canada and in Acadian. You know where I feel better when I feel home? It's in Negadu. And
Nigadoo?
yeah, he got Nigadoo for me. It's home. I'm getting from. They had exactly the same way of life than we have. So don't tell me how I feel Acadian. I don't feel I am Acadian. Because I can sit down tomorrow in Nigadoo restaurant or bar or going to fish with friends at sea. We use the same word. We have the same way to live, and we keep the same memory. I gave a conference in 2004 when the French government buy the land, Beaubassin land, which is now a historical site, Acadian historical site. You know it, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I was there because Jacques Vigneau, my ancestor, was married to Marguerite Arsenault from Beaubassin. She was the daughter of Abraham Arsenault and Jean Godet. So we were good. We get a meeting on the village of Beaubassin on this where is the big white cross is the place of the church, and we were 8,000 people, all Arsenault descendants, and it's something happening, and this is maybe the best souvenirs I got from this experience. Couple years before, an English farmer was discovering the church the church bell of the Beaubassin church, and by the middle of the ceremony, a truck was arriving with a drop over the, and when they take off the drop, there was the bell of our village. People were crying, and still, for me, very emotional things.
Yeah.
Still, again. And when you saw people coming from Louisiana and take piece of land and keep the land under the bell, which Acadian community was living this. And do you understand why I am Acadian? You
I
have
do.
to live this experience.
Yeah.
And now our country does not exist anymore. And once again, still the people. And we have our mission is to that's the mission of the World Congress, World Acadian Congress. I am founder of World Acadian Congress. That's the mission we do, and people coming from all over the world. Acadian is not going to caricate with a pen fry and a spoon, That's not this. It's something else. I think you
Yeah.
will agree with this.
Yeah.
Yeah? But once again, it's you're Acadian or you're not. If you are Acadian, you get it in your heart and in your mind. And you don't, and your way of life and the way you speak with your Acadian brothers living all around the world, you don't have to feel you are Acadian.
Yeah.
So that's
Um,
my sentiment.
so for my next question is are English Acadians less Acadian due to assimilation?
Yeah.
And can you explain your reasoning behind your answer?
How can I explain then some Acadian, if I understand your question? There's Acadian community who speak in only English. but they're still Acadian. I visit, you never, did you be in, did you travel to Newfoundland sometimes?
Yes, I have been to
Huh?
Newfoundland. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a bootlegger.
Pardon?
It is a bootlegger.
No. What?
Oh, well, it means something because I don't know how many $1 million are crossing from Saint Pierre to Newfoundland and sit down in my uh, principal theatre, and I just saw Newfoundland 16 miles in front of me. There's a lot traveling in Newfoundland boat from our south coast to Saint Pierre and Miquelon each night. So
Yeah.
that's the reason I say, is he bootlegger?
No,
But okay, I'm back.
I went to Newfoundland when I was in high school for an Acadian event actually called Jeunesse Acadie.
Well,
Um
yeah, I know, yeah, I know
yeah,
Daniel.
so I was in
Yeah,
Newfoundland,
Daniel.
and
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it ever since I left. It was such a
Mhm.
lovely experience. Yeah.
It's a place in Newfoundland called Cape Saint George, Western Newfoundland.
Yeah.
It's a mix of French fishermen coming from France, Mi'kmaq, people in the First Nation, and Acadian. Those Acadian got like name Benoit, Cormier, Chesson. They are from Magdalene Island, but it's a place where everybody, they're between the Mi'kmaq Nation, the fishermen from France, and the Acadians from Northern Ireland, they have no choice to speak the same language, and it was English. That's for this reason. This place is mostly English and French, but they're still Acadian, and they adopt the Acadian way of life. Another place, and I was living in Shediac, Cavalier. I would say 20 years ago, we were more people speaking French than English. My own daughter is living in Moncton, New Brunswick. And she said, Dad, it's incredible. But it's easier now to speak English in Chediac than French.
Yeah.
And what is terrible when people is losing his language by the same way he lose his country. Are you agree with this?
I feel that the language topic is very controversial. I have my own experience with anglicization and things like that. Like my um mother is actually Savoy, Savoy, and my father is a
Mhm.
Savoy, Savoie. Um, so there's some, anglicization that happened in my past, and I I always feel like it's a very hot topic to talk about, are English Acadians less Acadian due to assimilation because of my own background and my mother's family. They didn't identify as Acadian, even though Savoy was the last name. And I always thought that was really kind of bizarre, because I'm like, you're just you changed some letters and you're not Acadian anymore. Like, okay.
That's true.
Um, but going through this experience the last few years and really wondering, what does it mean to be Acadian has made me rethink a lot of my experiences of, like my own experiences of what it means to be Acadian. And one of obviously the bigger questions I've had, because these questions are obviously questions that are influenced by my um upbringing and whatever, I always had in my mind this kind of perfect Acadian, you know, like, am I ever going to live up to what this perfect Acadian is? And I never felt, I was either too English or too whatever, not, you know,
I,
Acadian.
I have tell you something. My great grandmother was coming from St. Lawrence, Newfoundland, and I am an Acadian.
Yeah.
There was from 1925 to now more than 300 weddings between Newfoundland women and people of Saint Pierre and Miquelon. All those women, or most of them, were forgetting their English. They don't speak English anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm not afraid by this. I'm not afraid. My home grandson, who's living in Moncton, is going to a French school. But in the street, he speaks English. Except when dad is there, when grandpa is there.
Yeah.
Because grandpa don't let him speak English in the street. Well, it's so, there's so many emigrants now in Moncton. They're in their the first house after my daughter's house, they're coming from Ukraine. The other one is coming from Tunisia. She's the only French woman in the place where she lives.
Mm.
And English is taking a lot of place, more and more place in Moncton. When you go to Walmart now, and you go through anybody to ask to get explanation, they 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 speak to you firstly in English, and
Yeah.
all the time I say, parle pas anglais. So I speak English like a Spanish co, but I refuse to speak English. If she's not able, would you please bring me somebody who speaks French? There you
Yeah.
go.
There aren't,
If
well, as much as we're a bilingual province in New Brunswick, there are a lot of places where you would go and you would not be able to get service in French.
Well, it's for my part, I consider there's two different countries in New Brunswick. When you take the north of New Brunswick, like over and near Amici,
Mm-hmm.
when you
Mm-hmm.
arrive in Caracat, Nigadou, Petit Rocher, a big part of Bathurst, it's really Acadian and French. All the North Coast, Acadian, New Brunswick North Coast, speak French. You can go in any restaurant or in any store. The first people to speak to you will speak to you in French. I don't understand why the Acadian of Shediac or Capelli or Boudreau or Shediac and Shediac River, and they use English in first.
Yeah.
And they know to speak French. That's their maternal language. And I always tell them, well, do you think you're not proud to speak French? Probably, probably it's coming. My own daughter, she is working for Unibank, and she said, Dad, sometimes I don't realize We start to speak French, and 5 minutes after, we are all Acadian, and we stop to speak English with her.
Yeah.
I tell her, I say, don't do never this if I am there. Yeah, after the relation between the Acadian politics and the French people shocked me. I'm getting a very, very good friend. I will not give you his name. Still alive. He was fishery federal fishery ministry, and he was coming to visit Saint Pierre and Miquelon with a delegation. Every year we have a meeting between Eastern Canadian provinces and Saint Pierre and Miquelon. That we call the international exchange. And the guy come, and before arriving, he told the authority of Saint Pierre, I got a good friend in Saint Pierre. I know him since 40 years. We are working together on the Acadian National Congress. So the plane come on the runway, and he just coming down. All the French authorities were there, and he just come to me. I said, Bob, you have to go through the politics authorities before me. Oh, we say, who's this? And the French ambassador said, this is the prefect of Saint Pierre, this is mayor of Saint Pierre. And he said, oh, well, very nice to meet you. The guy is from Nova Scotia, South Shore. And we were walking from the plane to the airport, and there was a big French flag. He took me by the neck. I said, Bernard, it's missing something on your flag. I say, yes, Bob, but it's missing. Bernard, it's missing a golden star. Hey, Bob, did you get a $20 bill in your pocket? I said, yes, what for? Show me it. I said, Bob, who's not missing on your bill? The head of the England Queen? He, he said, geez, I know that the answer was coming quickly, but I was not ticking so quickly. He spent more time in Saint Pierre with the other than with the authorities. We're doing a couple bottles of wine home, and he's still a good friend. But always he remember this, and when we meet again in Canada, I say, Bernard, do you remember the Golden Star? Do you remember the face of your the banknote? And I'm very direct. I don't turn it around the things. I say what I have to say. If somebody accepts it, it's good. He did not accept at the same price. And don't try to say that I'm not Acadian with this type of character. Because I was feeling there too, from the sailors from Cape Pelé to Nigadoo, or they don't accept. They accept what they want to accept, but they don't accept what they don't want. That's a mind. I don't know exactly what I can say in English, but it's a distinction of Acadian character. Don't you agree with this?
Yeah, I agree. And I find during this narrative inquiry that I'm doing that I'm finding a lot of similarities between some of the answers. So that's really been interesting for me, because when I came up with some of these questions, I didn't envision that I would necessarily be meeting with someone like you, for example. Um, I was just kind of first kind of like hyper focused on my area, and as I've expanded throughout North America, I'm seeing a lot of interesting stories, but a lot of similarities as well. A lot of shared beliefs, a lot of um, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. A
Yeah.
lot of what like what makes an Acadian, and our beliefs and our heritage, and some of the stories that I've been hearing are very familiar across North America. And this number one, what I would say that I'm feeling right now is that most people that I'm talking to have this sense of like wanting to be the torchbearer, like you want to be the person that educates other people on what does it mean to be Acadian, like in your experience, what does it mean, and sharing that with other people. And because I mean, people that are interested in doing these interviews obviously have a passion for Acadian culture in the first place, or they or they wouldn't be, offering their time. So, but I think it's been a very enlightening experience. And even from the age differences between the different participants that I've had, there's been this fierté, this pride,
Mhm. Mhm.
that is really important. And I think that Acadian people, even though we don't have a nation, we don't have a place
The
to
nation by
necessarily
the
call
people.
home. We are the nationless people, but we still exist, and there's a lot of us that are very um, proud of where we've come from and what we've endured. And, like you're talking about 6 deportations, like that's who else goes through that, like that's a resilience that's speaks to the character of the people to be able to endure such trauma repeatedly, and um,
And still
have
to be
this,
Acadian.
this sense
Yeah.
of qui je suis, like who I am, like this fierté d'être, this pride of being a resilient individual and coming from something bigger. It's bigger than you and I. It's a bigger thing. But it's beautiful because it connects us all in so many different stories, right? Like I almost feel like it's a tapestry. Like your story is woven,
Oh,
my story is woven over, we share some connection, but as individuals, it's impacted us differently. Um, but at the same time, I feel like you obviously have a very strong sense of your identity as being Acadian, and I'd like to believe that I do as well. Um, yeah, so I just feel that being Acadian is something that we need to explore and share and educate. I'd like to think of myself as well as a torchbearer to educate folks on, um, this first question: what does it mean to be Acadian? Like, qu'est-ce que c'est les Acadiens? Who are
when
Acadians,
you
right? Like, that's a
uh,
really important question, because even within New Brunswick, within the Maritimes, within
that's what
Canada, and I'm assuming within France as well, people don't necessarily
and Do you know how many Acadian there's in France?
I honestly don't know.
You don't. I can give them city like Lorient, Port-Louis, Nantes, Bordeaux, Saint-Malo, Dinard. I would say about probably 15, Belle-Île-en-Mer. Belle-Île-en-Mer. There's about 50,000 Acadian people. And they, trust me, they say we are Acadian.
So, yeah, fierté,
And
there's a pride.
they come to Canada. Why do you think we were deported 7 times and we were always coming back on our island? Because we were Acadian and we were getting our own way of life, which was not the way of life of the French people in France.
Hmm.
It's very
So I
important
have,
to understand,
yeah.
to understand this question. Why all the time they were coming back? Because they were prefer to be on the island, get hard situation to life. They were fishermen. Oh, they were getting the possibility to stay in France. They don't accept. Home for them was with their brothers in Acadie,
Hmm.
because there was a lot of change. Gulf, St. Lawrence Gulf was always, just think something. If Jacques Vigneau decided to move Boston with his boat and come to Miquelon, the reason is because he was knowing where was Miquelon. And he was knowing that Miquelon was coming back on the French regime. They were not accepted to go back in France. Don't forget that their grandfathers were living during the French Revolution, before the French Revolution. They were slaves in France. They were free men in Acadie. And they don't accept to be anything else than free men.
Yeah.
That's, people don't work too much on this. When you go to Belle-Île-en-Mer, at Clairvaux, there's the home of Joseph Leblanc dit Lemaitre. Joseph Leblanc dit Lemaitre is the ancestor of Stephen White.
LeBlanc, white, yeah.
You know why Stephen White it was American. Stephen died last August. Uh, his grandfather was leaving Arishat, Cape Breton, Île Madame, to Boston to try to get some job because the Île Madame was very poor. He was doing the travel with his own boat, with all his family, Arishat, Boston. When he's arriving in Boston, there was no job for Simon Leblanc. There was some for Simon White. And many Acadian people in Massachusetts, and I'm the forger. I speak this with him. It's incredible. The number of Acadian who's living now in Massachusetts, most of them coming from Nova Scotia. Most of them, their family were moving because there was nothing to do in Canada, especially those provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the Boudreaux in Fitchburg. There's, I don't know how many hundred Boudreaux there in Fitchburg. They're all coming from Magdalene Island and before from Miquelon. And I feel that, you know, I'm very happy by something. When I saw the efforts done by the Louisiana people, I tried between some, there's 2 or 3 guys who do the same thing than you do. And you know the codophile, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
which is okay. And those guys make some small intervention on Facebook, and they say, and I'm living in Saint-Martinville, uh, when you pronounce a name, it's not Boudreau, and you write it Boudreau, and you pronounce it with the real accent. Because a lot name and a lot words using by the Cajun are transformed. And those guys learn to the, and I felt very happy when I hear this, because it's a great effort. And it's something they realize. Then Cajun is not a language. Acadian is a language. And we try to sensibilize, that's we say,
Mm-hmm.
the population with the real pronunciation of their family name. I never see this 20 years ago. And everywhere now, you have group, to try. That's exceptional to see a group of people coming from different horizons, research a contact with the whole family. And the family is the real Acadian family. It was not existing before the International Acadian Congress. All start with the International Acadian Congress. When we have decided in 1987, we were in Charlottetown, PI, for the first meeting with André Boudreau and Pierre Arsenault and Jacques Nadeau, who was there, Daniel Thériault, and about 25, 30 people. We were trying to know what we can do to have an Acadian Congress. How are we going to build this Acadian Congress? And I don't remember who got the idea, but somebody said, we have to see what the Jew people are doing with the International Jew Congress. And the International Acadian Congress, CNA, Congrès Mondial Acadien, was taking some ideas from the Internal Jew Congress, because I would say the fact was to have to bring together Acadian from all parts of the world and say, you are home. And it's a success. And since this, it gives you the opening of the Moncton University. How many French people are coming to France? My two daughters. I sent my two daughters in Moncton University because I was switching. Then they were the luck to live during 6 years in an Acadian community, and for them to have to, in their mind, realize that they were Acadian first.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's coming back. But history that is not built in 6 months. But since 20 years, I feel a change. And it's not because some of them have lost the language. And when I see those guys of Louisiana working so hard to bring the language, when I see the people coming from France, and again, I want to see I want to see Acadie. Last summer, I received a group from Wisconsin in States. They were steer. There was a steer family of Miquelon. They were living in Wisconsin since, I would say, maybe 120 years. And their dream was coming in Miquelon. They know they was getting relation with the Miquelon population. And when they arrived, they were discovering 600 cousins. But this was not happening before. And it started. That's the reason, with the mayor of Miquelon, I decided to found, I'm a founder of the Historical and Genealogical Center of Miquelon, where all people coming will receive a diploma of Miquelon ambassador.
Okay.
You know, we don't, well, I spend my time working on this. It could be 5 a.m. in the morning or 9 a.m., 9 p.m. I'm still working in it. And the center will be open by the end of May, beginning of June.
Nice. So I have a couple of more questions for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel that as an Acadian, you had fewer opportunities, and if so, why?
I don't understand the question very well.
So did you have fewer opportunities in life because you were an Acadian? Is that something that affected you at all?
Yeah. Each time I'm traveling to France, the people say we have an accent. Definitely in French, we don't have the same accent than the French people. We have Acadian or mix of Acadian Quebecois accent. And when I'm traveling to Paris, oh, you're from Quebec. I say, no, I'm not from Quebec. I'm Acadian. I say,
They're
what?
like, what's Acadian?
An Acadian? What's that? But that's so I stopped my history and say, but you're French too? Yeah. But I'm Acadian before French.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do this, if we have to give to all others what is Acadie, what is an Acadian? Could be a French. But you know the France. In France, there's the Basque, there's the Briton, there's the Alsatian, there's the people from Alsace. When you are in Bayonne, in Pays Basque, they don't say I'm French. They say I'm Basque.
Yeah.
When you are in Brittany, they don't say I'm French. They say I'm British.
Yeah. That's interesting to me because I also have Basque heritage as well outside of my Acadian heritage, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Uh, but then each region of France, my son is living in Tours, France, and his son say, I'm a Tourangeau. He never say I'm French. I am a Tourangeau. Where are you from? Oh, from Tours. My own wife is the two grandfathers were coming from French Bretagne in France. She said, I'm Breton. She don't say I'm French. I'm Breton.
Which is interesting because here in New Brunswick, a lot of the times when people ask, like, you're talking about where you're from, what language you speak, or whatever, people would say, like, je suis française, but like, to someone from France, that would mean you are French, as in you are from France. But here in New Brunswick, when you say that, you're not saying I'm from France are saying I'm French. So it's kind of has this whole different meaning here in this part of the world, right?
Yeah, try to say, all right, with the Quebecois, then he say to you, I'm Canadian. I never hear a Quebecois say, I'm Canadian.
No, because they're going to put
No.
Quebecois over Canadien, right? So yeah.
Yeah, they
But
say,
I
I'm
mean, same for
Quebecois.
me. Like I'm going to I'm Acadian and
Yeah,
then Canadian, like
yeah,
and that maybe other people don't necessarily even understand what that means, but like yes, I 100% am Canadian, but like before I identify as Canadian, I'm something else. I am Acadian. I
yeah,
have
firstly
this
Acadian.
yeah, I have
Yeah,
this
firstly
whole
Acadian and Canadian.
yeah, like I have this whole
Because I
other
will tell you,
persona.
Acadie existed longer, long time before Canada.
Yeah. Yeah,
Don't forget,
exactly.
we were the first European inhabitants of Canada, and
Yeah.
we were
And
Acadian.
I definitely feel like it's important to identify that like when I am explaining to other people like who I am, where I'm from, whatever, that whole intro that we do when we meet people, I always say that I'm um French Acadian, and I not just Acadian, but I add the whole French part because now we're at a point where just because you're Acadian doesn't necessarily mean you're French. So I add French Acadian because I want people to understand that yes, I'm Acadian, but I also come from a French ancestry. Well, I mean, obviously as Acadian, but there's been so many anglicized individuals that now it seems like that little added bit of information of French Acadian, not just Acadian. I feel that's important because there is a distinction in my mind between being Acadian and being French Acadian. Doesn't necessarily mean one's more or less than the other, but in today's world, we've been so anglicized that there is the distinction between the two, I feel anyway.
Yeah, but for me, I still to think that the most important when somebody asks who we are, to say firstly, I'm Acadian.
Yeah.
Because when you say this, questions are coming direct, and you
Questions
are
always
able.
come. What's an Acadian?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that we were doing it with with the CMA, and I say the answer when somebody asks you, "Are you Canadian?" You can say yes. But firstly, I'm Acadian. When I tell me, "Are you French?" Yes, I'm French. Firstly, I am Acadian.
Yeah. And
Because
I
don't forget, Acadian is part of French history too.
yeah. And I mean
If
that's
you know,
that's very interesting because I mean um we both live in North America. We both identify as being Acadian. However, our citizenship is different. So, you being um, from France and identifying as an Acadian is, I'd say, probably a pretty big deal to a lot of Acadians because a lot of Acadians, personally, that I've met, aren't even, for the most part, aware of our own history. So then when we find out, families have been deported from places up to 6 times, like, what? This is crazy. And to think about that things in our history can be so just not common knowledge, like I feel like it's always been the little dirty secret to be Acadian. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to talk about it because we're kind of not, it wasn't a popular topic up until a few years ago. I don't know what it was like for you, but um, I know some people grew up being Acadian, but it wasn't the cool thing to talk about. So they were kind of like, shh, hush hush, we don't want to talk about that. Like, um, goodness, like how, we don't want to identify as those people. So,
My sister is married in Magdalene Island with a terrier, and it's nice guys. You got the same age, and he's there about 52 years now since 52. And one day we were at the table, and my brother-in-law say, "Goddamn Frenchman." I say, aren't you sure that you are not more French than I am?" He said, "Why do you say this?" Yeah, I will tell you, you drink much more wine than I do. When you have, it was always my way to answer. If I feel if I feel the answer like an addict, I always answer by a joke,
yeah.
and the situation change immediately. And you know, I never go to the way the people in front of me wish I could. When I'm speaking with somebody, then I feel then he is sometimes angry about friendship, and I will always getting a joke for answer, and immediately the this feeling stop, and it's becoming more friendly.
Yeah.
I was living in Halifax for years too. I love people of Halifax. I don't have any problem with English with the people living at Grand Prairie or Windsor or have friends everywhere. But I was always do this. And I was learning this in my marketing student. In marketing, when you try to solve something and you feel then the client is not very friendly or doesn't take care too much attention to you, use a joke. Transform the conversation in joke. And that's what we do like Acadian.
So
And trust me,
I was going to
yeah,
say, I have one last question for you.
yeah.
So, what was or is your biggest challenge as an Acadian?
Biggest challenge
Yeah.
to the biggest challenge is to keep contact with all the Acadian in the world and let them know that then they are coming from a real people. And these people exist. That's that's I that's what I do through Acadian descendant, Acadian genealogy, the site in France. More you contact the other one, more you have exchange, like we will do before on the center. It's a big messenger is a big tool because all the people when I put something on the website like Acadian descendant, only a photo sometimes.
Hmm.
It's 200 people coming back to me and ask questions. That's a good way to do. That's the target is there. Inform most people possible on our identity and our Acadian nationality.
Yeah. So I would say you're definitely, as I would have said previously, a torchbearer. Someone that feels obligated to share your experience, your history, your knowledge to the greater general public and to educate people on qu'est-ce que c'est d'être Acadien, right? Like, what does it mean to be Acadian? And reminding people that we're still here. Um, it's been a few hundred years, but we're still here, and
And
we
we
still
will
have
say,
that pride. There's a lot of Acadian pride.
yeah,
And I definitely sense that from you as well, that you have a strong pride. And um, unrelated to the questions that I was asking, but just out of curiosity, when you consider yourself like, qu'est-ce que je suis? Like, who are you? Like,
mhm.
when you put those adjectives or whatever, and what what comes first? Are you French or are you Acadian?
And
what do you identify as?
all Acadian, definitely.
Yeah, so
The Acadian,
you put that
and
over your
they don't
nationality.
have to forget something. Then they built the Canada. The first Canadian builders were Acadian.
Oh,
So we are not the people of Quebec. The historian called them the Canadians. But the people of Western, Eastern Canada, New Brunswick, PI, they call it Acadian in the history. They don't, in the treaty, they speak about the Canadian, who means Québécois, but
mm-hmm.
when they speak about us, they say Acadian. So we are Acadian. We have been designed by those treaties, Acadian. Stay Acadians.
Perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for
Oh,
your
you're welcome,
time.
when you want. And if anybody needs information regarding the Acadian of Saint Pierre and Miquelon or the all Acadian,
You're the guy.
give them my email, and I will answer to everybody.
Well, thank you so much. Enchanté. My
Merci. Thanks
pleasure
for you.
to meet
Thanks
with
from you.
you. And I hope we stay in touch. I'll
Oh yes, I
be,
hope so.
yeah,
You have a
I
job to
I
do.
feel like you are, I might have to pick your mind a little bit.
No, I think we can, if we can make like a working group, uh, an Acadian working group at the international, and
Yeah,
not a big group, but a group like Anne Fourier, like you, like Flore Bourdon in France, and uh, we can give a lot to the other one.
definitely. Yeah.
Think, think to this, that
Yeah.
any information you need, or any information an Acadian from Louisiana or Western Canada need, and any contact you have with wish information of our history and our current history, just give them my email and I will answer.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your enthusiasm about the interview. It's been my pleasure, and we'll be in contact soon. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
I hope so. And certainly we will, my daughter living in Moncton, and maybe someday we will have a glass together.
Oh, oui. Yes, excellent. All right. Well, à la prochaine. Until
À la
next
prochaine.
time,
Merci.
have a
Bonjour
wonderful
aux
day.
Acadiens. À
Au
tous les
revoir.
Acadiens. Bye bye.